What's up, traders? Matt from the Trade Brigade here doing a technical analysis on ticker symbol FCEL for FuelCell Energy. On the left-hand side, we have the daily time frame, and on the right-hand side, the 30-minute intraday time frame. First things first, this will, of course, be more of an update. The main thing to talk about today is clearly the gap up from earnings. So because we have a gap in the chart, it's at least worth mentioning that underneath today's low, 612, the gap does fill technically down towards $5.75, the prior day's high. So this area here in the chart has very little structure in it in terms of recent price activity. You would expect that to fill relatively quickly. You just treat it as an area of low liquidity. That's only if we take out that 612. We're not saying it has to move there. We're just saying, again, if 612 breaks, you're looking for that to ultimately be the target down at 575. But as of course we know, we did hold the gap up. It's clearly a green candle here. The gap did not fill very much. So what are we left with, right? Whenever we get a large expansion of range, what we like to do is take out the Fibonacci's and just judge the strength of the movement intraday through the lens of the Fibonacci. And as you can clearly see, and again, it didn't take a rocket scientist to probably figure this out, but it was a pretty weak close. The fact that on the daily we left this massive upper wick, it's basically just showing us that, again, we didn't hold the 38.2 for bullish consolidation up here. That would have been ideal scenario number one. The next best scenario, of course, is holding the line in the sand here at the 61.8. So if we did come down and bounce off of that, that would have been okay, scenario number two. But again, you can clearly see that was violated and we closed underneath here. So the only thing that's, not the end of the world here is, of course, the fact that the gap didn't fill, right? It didn't move lower underneath today's sort of low of day right at the open. That's the only saving grace for the chart here. So as long as we remain, and again, I'll just clear up some of these things. Let me actually draw in one line as a critical area here at the 61.8, and then we'll get rid of those Fibonacci's, clean up the chart. There we go. So the main things to be watching out for here on the daily perspective, we'll talk about how this might unfold, is, of course, what's going on with this range. Now that we're trading back down into it, I would expect some more chop, some more two-sided trade back and forth action, and not so much trending activity. You can clearly see that that was the case when we were in there in the past, right? So that would be the expectation. To the upside, if we start taking out, though, the top end of the range, so here at this 657, and can even trade back above the daily 50 SMA, the blue line there, as well as the 61.8 that we drew in from that intraday perspective here, if we can take this out to the upside, that's the only scenario where there's a potential for a long back up towards today's high. I would argue that the first bump in the road should really be here right at 7. You can see that we had some prior wicks. So here we stalled out before making that secondary push. Definitely a wick here and a wick here, rejecting at that 7 area. So I would keep 7 as an upside target on the break of 657, 666 to the upside. After that, just targeting today's high up towards $7.50. Okay, so that would be the next upside target. Not really looking into 829 as of right now. To the downside, as discussed, a break under today's low does put the gap fill in play with a bump in the road at 593, as noting it was prior structure from in here, as well as this perfect lower wick from the hammer there. So I do think it's important. But then, of course, as we mentioned, the gap does fill to 575. So that's going to wrap up the video and update here on FuelCell. If you enjoyed it or learned anything new, certainly let me know down below in the comments section. As the chart currently sits, fairly weak close, but we'll see how it unfolds. If you enjoyed the video, let me know in the comment section or by giving the video a thumbs up. Don't forget our main channel is linked in the description. And all of that being said, I wish you a green trading week.